Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How we doing? How we doing? Welcome back to another Minecraft video. Today, we're gonna do something a little different. We're gonna do a tutorial. I haven't done a tutorial in a while, and I know some people asked for them. And I don't know. I figured we could do something a little different today, since city is getting a little stale, and I think I just need a little break from the bigger build projects. So we're gonna still make progress on the world, but instead I'm gonna kind of teach you guys how I build some trees and kind of give you my basic formula for a couple different trees that you'll see throughout my world. So just in case you're struggling with some tree builds and you want some trees that look kind of like the ones I have, don't get me wrong, I am of no illusion that I am a amazing tree builder. However, I think they look pretty good. And especially when you put them all together in like smaller little clumps, they kind of come together and create this nice forest. And they don't take me an unreasonable amount of time to build. So we're gonna get that going. We're gonna get that going. Yeah, we're just gonna kind of pick out a spot. So I want to put some trees around this guy here. We're gonna do 3 or 4 different trees today. We're gonna do an oak tree, like one of these guys here. We're gonna do some thin little trees, maybe like baby trees or like young trees. These kind of like cypress, kind of like thinner ones. And then we're gonna do a birch tree as well. Those are gonna be the 3 trees. Maybe I'll just kind of show you how I do some of the other ones that are like really fast, like cypress trees and stuff like that. But yeah, let's get started. I think we're gonna add some trees to this ruined area over here. So without further ado, let's get going. Let's do it. Alright, so first thing I do when I'm building a tree, especially the large oak tree that I'm going to stick right here in the front of this bridge here, is I want to have a good base. So I'll start with oak logs, the oak wood logs that have no actual like face showing, they're the complete ones. And then I'll kind of build a little root system. So I won't do like a full all the way around. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Kind of give it a little bit of like depth like that. If you think of like an actual oak tree, sometimes they go straight into the ground. Sometimes you can see the roots. It kind of depends on where they're at on the ground. So you can kind of mix it up. And then I will go up a couple blocks here and kind of try to give it some shape. So I don't want it to just be a straight up and down tree. Oak trees typically are a little more straight up and down than some of your other trees. So maybe we only give it like one break off like that, and you just do a break off kind of the side, and then from there, that's about the height I want the main trunk to be. So now we need some branches. With branches, you want to do like 3 main branches typically, and then branch off from those ones. So I don't know if you guys have ever drawn trees, like pencil and paper, old school drawing, but one of the ways to do them is you could draw them like this, where it's like a Y, and then you make another Y coming off of that one. That's how you do your trees. And it looks pretty good. And that's kind of the same principle that I follow here. So like that's kind of like how your tree would branch off when you're drawing it on paper. So I try to follow that same principle here. We try to make sure we have those branches that create like kind of fork off each other. So this first one we'll do maybe a branch this way. And because it's organic and it's a tree, you can kind of just do whatever you want. You don't have to worry about like having a set direction or that kind of stuff. So we're gonna build off like that, and then we'll do like one more branch maybe over here, like so. Those are my 3 main branches, and then from there we're going to kind of branch off a little bit. So now what I do is I'll come down to some spruce fences. You don't have to do this. You can either not use spruce fences, or you can use them as like your individual branches. I just like using them because that way when you're looking into the tree from like the ground or whatever, you can see some wood in there, so like it looks like there's sticks poking through, which I think is a nice little effect. So from here we're gonna branch off and turn this into kind of like a Y, like I was saying earlier, just kind of like that. And that way when you're putting your leaves on it and stuff and filling it out, this whole section will be filled out with leaves instead of having a big open gap here. And we'll kind of just keep doing that as we go around. So like maybe this one will come up a tiny bit more, and then we'll like go off this way. Same thing here. Maybe we'll like come off this way. And need something over here on this side. So, you know, maybe we'll add one more branch. Big branch over here, like so. So that's kind of like the skeleton of our tree. If we were doing like a dead tree, we'd probably want to like make sure it was a little prettier. But we're going to cover most of this in leaves, so it really does not matter. I will say this is going to be really tall, so maybe I'll add another branch like kind of down here. And you don't have to like worry about that now. I just can see that that's going to be kind of like the tree's very tall. So that's our skeleton of our tree. Now I'm going to get my hotbar all set up here and put some leaves, my oak leaves and birch leaves together. Now you're thinking, well, it's just an oak tree, so I only need to use the oak leaves. Well, we can actually use the birch leaves to give the leaves some more depth. The actual like foliage here, so you can see there's like birch leaves in there and oak leaves. Gives it a little bit more depth, and if I was really good at this, I would put the birch leaves kind of underneath and the oak leaves on the top to kind of show light coming down from above. So that's the plan. I will kind of just start with one and like roughly outline the shape before I use the other leaves. And then what I'll do is with these branches, I'll cover them in leaves entirely like so. So just like make sure those three sides are covered. Same with the sticks here. So you're basically just covering them, the blanket of leaves, leaving the underside for now. We'll worry about that in a second. Okay, so that's all of our leaves, or all of our branches all covered with leaves. You can kind of see the shape of the tree now, how it's going to look. Oh, I forgot one here, but that's okay. Get this guy covered too. Okay, so that's the shape of our tree. Now we need to come through and we need to establish the like actual like rounded shapes of the tree. So realistically, these two branches here, I think I want them to be connected basically by leaves. So you can just kind of throw in some more sticks here to, again, give it some more like structure and hope that that wood peeks through a little bit. It doesn't have to connect to the wood. That's okay. Just kind of have it as like a skeleton. Kind of like do that. I want this back part to be like the highest part of the tree, basically, and we're just gonna try to give that like a rounded thing, like so. And then we'll kind of come back through, and this is gonna be a flatter portion, I think. So we'll do something like so. Here, and then we'll kind of widen this a little bit. Now I'm going to come underneath and fill this in because I do want this to be like a round, like think like clouds, I guess. You know, it's in Minecraft, like real trees don't necessarily have like these bushes of leaves on them, but in Minecraft it looks a little funky if you try to make them scarce, I guess. So at least in my opinion, I kind of do it like that, where it's just like this cloud of leaves, and then again have like some of your roots or like your skeleton shows through a little bit, which makes it feel a little bit more tree-like. It's like if you look up at a tree, you can see some of the branches in there. So we'll kind of do that. So like that's that part of the tree. And then we need to do the same thing over here. We'll go up underneath. I think I'm gonna keep this one higher because I do have that lower branch down there. So we'll kind of just completely encircle these branches here with leaves. So let's take a look. Let's see how it looks from there. Still looks a little blocky, a little silly. So like we'll kind of just round out this section here maybe. So all right. And then this guy here needs some coverage. So I am going to switch to my birch leaves now. We're well underneath the canopy. It's going to be nice and dark down here. So I'm going to use the darker leaves to make sure that that effect comes through, and start giving some depth to these like lower branches. It's a good way to add details to trees that are like inherently kind of, at least in Minecraft, like it's not easy to get detail unless you're gonna mix a bunch of woods together or like that kind of stuff. It's a tree. You can't get too creative with like the architectural and structural stuff of it. So adding different blocks and like different colors in there is a great way to do that. You don't have to use birch either. You can use a different colored leaf block instead. Any of these leaves they're all slightly different shades, but they all read the same. So if you want to like create your own kind of tree, you can just like add different leaves, or like that you can use the same skeletal structure, add different color leaves, and then you have like a cherry tree or a jacaranda tree, or the world is your oyster when it comes to the trees and the leaves. Okay, so right now I'm just kind of sculpting a shape. I'm trying to look at it from all the different angles here. That's important when you're building something like this. Like I can see from this angle that still looks a little silly and it's all flat, so we need to make sure that's nice and round. The rest of this, it's not looking too bad. You can also see like where the tree looks a little imbalanced, right? So that looks a little imbalanced there, and then that looks a little imbalanced there. So maybe from our trunk, we can kind of come up and like build up a little bit more of a base, meaning I'm going to add a branch that kind of goes up in there from the trunk, like so. I did a little bit more up in there. Like that. And that adds that angle, and then like same deal here. Maybe we'll just like do one of these. Like that. Something like that. There you go. Now it looks like that part of the tree is actually supported by the branches versus just kind of like free floating. Okay, so now we'll come to the back here and we'll throw on some more leaves. We'll kind of like I said earlier, I want this to kind of be round. So make sure that I keep that round shape. And we'll come under, make sure that this is all kind of like rounded nicely, filled in. And like the branches, just like randomly placing them like I did earlier, like I give it a general shape, but it really kind of comes into its own. And that way I'm not building just like cookie cutter the same tree every single time. If you build like the same tree, if you want it the same tree every single time, that's fine, but it might be better use of your time if you just plant the Minecraft saplings and do it that way. So this is a way to like make it so it's not incredibly difficult and like not incredibly time consuming to build something like this, but it's also unique. There you go. I mean, it's not perfect by any means, but it is definitely, it definitely looks like a big old oak tree. And it's never gonna be like perfect. It's definitely a organic project, so you can, always come back through and add some more and like fix up some of the faces that seem a little funky, and like it's all just sculpting, and that's kind of what it comes down to. And that's why I like the organic stuff a little bit, is like you can kind of just like feel it out and sculpt things together. You don't have to stress about having everything be like uniform or symmetrical or anything like that. So there you go. That's how I do an oak tree. And now we have a big old oak tree over there, and like even the base looks a little small for the tree now. Come back in and maybe like touch it up a little bit, add a little bit of spruce fences to kind of make it thicker. The trunk is a little thicker, something like that. Good. All right, let's move on to the next tree. Alright, so for my next tree, I'm going to build one of these birch trees. They are a little bit different. They're similar to the oak trees in the builds, but I do build them a little bit differently. I build them kind of, I don't know what kind of birch it is, but it's definitely not like your Scandinavian or like Northern European birch forests, where it's kind of just a bunch of straight up and down trees. I do the ones where they kind of like branch out from the base, from the trunk, and then into like different trees. So I guess we'll just do it on the other side of this one here, and we'll kind of just start. So I'll start with the same deal. We're going to use the birch wood blocks, not with the base showing. We're going to do it just completely covered. Then we want to give it a little bit of a base, same as we did with the oak tree. And then what I'll do is I'll start by doing a Y, like I said earlier, with the oak tree, except we start it from the base here. So like, we'll do 2 branches coming off this way, like so. Then let's do one more branch coming off this way. And we'll have this one kind of like branch out that way, pretty far. That looks a little funky. Let's just have it down to like there, and we'll do a stick. Same thing as like with the oak trees. I use the birch wood sticks, just to, I don't know. It matches better with the dark birch leaves. And then the leaves I use for this, I do not typically use oak leaves for the color for birch trees. I only use the birch leaves just because I think the white trunks already contrast really nicely with the darker leaves. So I kind of just leave it as is. And then what I do first is I'll come to each of my 3 little pillars here, and I will cover the tops and leaves like so. Okay, and then once you have that done, and again, right now we're just sketching, so it's just kind of like this rough pattern. The thing with my birch trees is I like to have them kind of like hanging over, and I like to have these extra like bits hanging down, so I keep that in mind with my tops here. So I don't want the leaves to extend too far down the trunk. I kind of just keep them up towards the top here, and that's where the actual, like, I guess, like the heart of the tree tops would be. And then I'll kind of like use the edges. We try to make like almost like a circle or like an oval shape using the leaves in the middle there, and then we'll kind of use that to like branch out and drop down like so. Something like that, and then we'll just copy that or do something similar to that for the rest of the branches. And then at the top, we'll make sure they're all connected. We want them to be close enough where they are connecting. It's okay for them to touch. They're not 3 separate trees, so and like kind of have them combine a little bit towards the top and make that canopy. All right, so that's the basic shape there, and then we'll come back through, and like this back part's kind of bare, so we'll just kind of come in, and like you can even bring in some branches out here. Just kind of do something like so. Get everybody together. This is just to make it feel like one big old cohesive tree, and that way when you place it with some other trees next to it, they all kind of combine and turn into a grove or a forest pretty quickly, instead of just being standalone builds. Like I'm looking here, so like I said, kind of like take a look. So the main point that you're going to be seeing this from, if you're like walking down the road, is from here, right? So like that's kind of the angle I'm looking at it a little bit. Then over here, like you can kind of see it on this side, but not as much. So like that's the angle as well. So like I'm seeing this looks a little pointy, so let's round this out. Just kind of add a little bit more to it. Same deal with this one. This one's a little pointy, so we're gonna just round this out too. Something like that. There you go. And that's a birch tree, pretty much, more or less. Then we can do the same deal. Come in here, add a little bit, like the actual trunk, add some sticks. There you go. So now we have an oak tree and a birch tree. Birch trees are pretty simple. They're a little bit easier than oak trees because it's a little smaller. All right, there you go. That's 2 new trees in our Minecraft world. Now I'm gonna show you guys how to do the thin little like young trees. Kind of like the cypress thing. I don't even know what kind of trees they would be. Some smaller little young trees, and we'll do a couple different variations of those to help kind of like break that up, because they look really good in large groups, but if you do the same kind over and over again, it can get a little monotonous. So I'm trying to save your mental sanity as well as make your Minecraft world look good. That's the goal. All right, so let's do these thinner little like cypress tree kind of things. These are a lot easier to do and a lot quicker. The trick with these is not doing too much. So I start with just spruce fences. We don't do any logs for these ones. I'll just do straight up like that. And it depends on how tall you want the tree. That's probably about good. A little taller. And then what I do, starting from the top, is I'll go down and we'll rotate these fences. So you just don't want to do 2 next to each other like that. You want them to have space in between. So you don't want 2 of them to be on the same thing. So like we can do stuff like that where there's a branch coming across. Kind kind of like keep rotating that down. And then I leave it until there's 2 blocks underneath. So the tree doesn't like, I don't want the leaves like touching the ground. I want a little bit of trunk to be showing. So then this is your skeleton of the tree. And then I do use both oak leaves and birch leaves for this one. And what I'll start with is I'll come up to the top and I'll add 2 blocks to the top. And then I'll come to each of my little branches here and just surround them with leaves. Starting with just oak leaves here, like so. We don't want any of the sides or the tops of these to be showing. We're not doing anything to the bottom yet. All right, so that's the skeleton completely covered. And I step back and that looks okay. It looks a little bit blocky. There's some weird angles in there that don't look too natural. So then we'll come back through and we'll add some of those birch leaves in, kind of in the bottoms here to like fill in some of those gaps. I do still want some sticks to be showing through, like the trunk to be showing through, so I won't fill in all of them. But we'll kind of just come through and fill it out a little bit, get rid of some of those weird angles. The way I did this one, I left this whole back open basically, which is fine. I don't want that showing though, so we'll do that. Again, we're just gonna kind of come in and sculpt it up a little bit, make it feel more full. And I come back and look at it. Okay, there's a weird line going through the middle of it there, but the rest of it I think is looking okay. So we'll kind of like just fill in that line a little bit like so. And there you go. I would call that tree good. It's like a thin little tree. You can put a bunch of these right next to each other and it looks really good. And that's like a more full one. You can do like even younger trees. So like, for example, do another one right here. And we'll just kind of go out there. Except for this one, we're not going to do the branches. We're just going to go straight to the leaves. And we'll kind of come through and just like wrap the trunk in some leaves like so. And then these trees realistically would be good for like a survival world too, because they're not super resource intensive. You don't need to get up super high, like these oak trees would. You don't need a whole lot of leaves to kind of like make this happen. But that's how I do these. So like basically 2 of the same tree. This one doesn't have the skeleton, so it's not as full looking like this one here, but it still reads like similar. So you can kind of mix and match these together and get a whole bunch of stuff. Like you can get a really nice looking forest pretty quickly with trees like this. These also work really well in between builds. So like if you have 2 buildings next to each other and you want kind of like, I think a tree would go nicely there, but you don't necessarily have room for a big oak tree due to like the Minecraft like limitations and stuff with build scale and whatnot. Throw some of these guys in there. These work really well, and like you do them without the branches around the sides. Even you can like make them really nice. Same thing for birch trees. So I'll do the same deal for some birch trees, and like you can follow the same pattern where you do like just the straight stick up, and then you can either do the skeleton or not, or like the actual branches or not, and then kind of just come around like so with the birch leaves, and then you have like a thin little birch tree. The main thing I'm trying to look for when I'm like walking around the tree is straight angles and long straight lines. If you look around in nature, just outside, in real life, you'll notice there's not a whole lot of straight lines. It's a lot of curves, it's a lot of broken up patterns, a lot of broken up surfaces. So that's kind of why that's what I'm looking for. It looks super unnatural when you have a super straight line. You know, like those buildings, those roofs, that straight line, that is a really clear indicator that those are man-made versus something that's a little bit more organic, a little bit more natural. So yeah, those are my thinner trees that kind of like fill in the forest. And then we'll do one more set of trees for you to kind of give you another I don't know, tool to use when you're building your forest. So let's do that now. All right, you guys, so this is going to be the quickest and like least detailed tree that you're going to have, but these are really good if you want like prune trees for a city, or if you just need like a lot of trees really fast and you want to kind of break up you don't want as many big trees and you've already done a bunch of these little thin ones. What I do is I'll take some oak blocks, just like so. I'll take some oak leaves, and then you build up like 2 or 3 from the top, and then you kind of just follow down the sides of the trunk. So, You can go almost all the way down to the ground here with these ones. You don't have to like worry about being too close. And then you come in and you fill in the corners as well. So you basically make a cube, kind of like with a pointy top. And these ones probably don't look super great without the bushy leaves texture on, but I love the bushy leaves texture, so I keep it. And then again with these ones, you don't want to go do too much. It's going to start to look a little funky, but like there you go. I think that looks pretty good. It gets the point across. It's a thin like cypress tree almost. And it blends really well in a forest, and it is a good little like tool to have when you're building your trees in your forests. You can do the same thing with birch. These are more like the European kind of like birch trees. They're just kind of like that straight up pole, and then they have like the leaves just on the top here. I'll pull them down a little bit just because I want it to kind of like, I feel like the long straight line of like the trunks don't look good, and you can't really like do subtle curves and stuff in a scale like this. So there you go. That's your thin birch tree. Just like that. Just like that. There's 2 more trees. Super easy, super simple, and they'll add a lot. Again, like all these trees together really do wonders. If you look at like a European forest or like woods, it's not all just like one tree normally. So, and even if it is where you live, like these adding some variety really helps make the world feel more alive, and like it's not as boring to walk through. You know, if it's just all cookie cutter trees and the same tree over and over again, it A, you'll go crazy building that, and B, boring for the viewer, you know. And then we'll throw in one more, you know, we'll throw in more tree, guys. We'll throw in one more tree. This is a super simple tree. These are like my little orchard trees, or like it's a young oak tree almost. You just do a couple sticks, kind of going up like so, fences going up like that, and then you kind of just give it like a little cotton ball on the top, basically. Like you can kind of be lopsided a little bit. That's okay. There you go. It's like a little baby oak tree, or I use those for my orchard trees. Just like if you look over here at these farms that I built recently, they work good as like little orchard trees, maybe little apple trees or something. I use jungle leaves here because they have the fruits in them. Looks like pears almost. So that's my tree tutorial. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys learned something. If you do like this kind of video, let me know. I'll do some more tutorials of some of the stuff I use, like the common build styles I use around the world, and some variations of them and stuff to give you guys some ideas and tools for your own worlds. Please let me know down in the comments what you want to see next. Next week, I think I might do. We'll see what happens next week with like whether I'm working on the city, doing a world tour, or doing another tutorial. Kind of depends on what you guys want to see. So if you have a preference, let me know down in the comments. Come join the Discord. Come say hi. World downloads in there, and starting up a community, trying to get an SMP going. So that's what's on the books right now. I appreciate you guys watching. Help me get to 1,000 subscribers. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want to. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and peace.